I'm Susan Cosgrove, and I will be your host for our first ever special bonus episode of the live stream show, My Diabetes HQ Live. Receiving a diabetes diagnosis can be overwhelming. Patients may be prescribed medications and given complex instructions on lifestyle changes like diet and exercise that are necessary for management. Many patients, even people who have been living with diabetes for a long time, leave their doctor's appointments with unanswered questions and tons of mixed emotions. This is where peer support comes in. There is nothing like being around a group of your peers, people who are also dealing with diabetes just like you, who can help with understanding what is going on and how to navigate through life's challenges while effectively managing your diabetes. Today, we're going to hear more about the Houston Diabetes Peer Support Program and talk about the important role that partnership plays in diabetes management. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. Before we begin, a gentle reminder, the content shared during the My Diabetes HQ Live broadcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your medical condition. This weekly broadcast is developed and produced by Cities Changing Diabetes volunteers in Houston and here in Philadelphia. Both cities are in the network of 25 cities working to improve diabetes prevention, care, and management around the world. You can learn more about Cities Changing Diabetes by going to citieschangingdiabetes.org. So the purpose of today's live stream is to help people with diabetes and their support teams. And today I'm excited to introduce our panel. So we have Serena Valentine, Executive Director of Core Initiatives and the Program Coordinator for the Houston Diabetes Peer Support Program under Cities Changing Diabetes. Hi, Serena.
Hello. Hi, Susan.
Hello. And we also have Joy Cornthwaite, a Certified Diabetes Education Care and Specialist. Hi, Joy.
Hi, everyone. How are you all?
Good. So we're going to discuss peer support, successes, challenges, and also how the program has been impacted over the past several months during COVID. We'll also dig into community partnerships and how they are important for supporting members in such efforts. So, Serena, let's get started. Can you tell us what peer support is and how you got started with it?
Sure. Peer support is basically support that you can receive from peers. And by peers, I mean people who actually have the experience with diabetes. Also, a peer can also be immediate family member or like a caregiver, someone caring for someone with diabetes. So it's support in any manner, emotionally, kind of physically sometimes, and mentally, because diabetes takes a toll on your mind. In dealing with any chronic illness, it's all up here, because it's long term. So how I got started, I think I was doing peer support before I even started with Cities Changing Diabetes. I started with Cities Changing Diabetes in the Faith and Diabetes Initiative involving Houses of Faith. And I just began to see a very big need for people to, learn how to deal with diabetes management and life management at the same time. So I actually attended a training where this was the first time I saw Joy. It was at a peer support training. And I got trained on that. The person who was doing that at the time actually was Sandy Rose. And I did a couple of sit-ins with her, and then she was moving. So she asked me, did I want to do it? And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? So that's how I got started with it. I figured it would be a very good addition to my organization's activities because we work in the community. So it's all community effort.
That's great. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of how community partnerships play such an important role in peer support?
Yes, because as anyone dealing with anything, it doesn't even have to be an illness, but any kind of challenge that they're going on in their life, they're not going to go walk to someone that they don't know and just start pouring their heart out, right? They like to see familiar faces. So people who are a part of the community are normally the familiar faces that, people are used to them, neighbors, people at the community center you may go to for special classes. It could be anything, sewing classes, fitness classes, anything like that. So the community plays a large part in, supporting the members of their own community because they're used to them and they're familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that familiarness is really important. And I think we know more and more that healthcare is not just what happens in clinical settings. It really is what happens in the community as well. So I feel like I've been hearing a lot more lately about peer support and its importance generally. And I think across the board, not just because I've been hanging out with you more, Serena. But Joy, could you talk a little bit about how maybe peer support has gained support among clinicians lately?
Yeah, so I think thank you, Serena and Susan, for setting this up. This is a really important conversation, I think, especially because it's peer support is not something that is brand new. It's something that I even learned about in medical anthropology, where medical anthropologists went into communities using promotoras, which is just another name for a peer who lives in a community, who allows someone who may not be aware of all of the dynamics of the community and all of the special needs and cultural nuances behind a community to help guide everyone back into healthy habits and different medical things that ideas that you need to convey to someone who is perhaps from a different culture than you, that you're providing medical care for. So I think that it is just now gaining traction here in general medical clinics, because clinicians are now removed from the communities that they provide help for, right? So it used to be that your physician or your nurse lived in your community and already knew you in some way, right? And so they could be your peer and your clinician. And so now what's happening is clinicians are using that old tried and true method of neighbors helping neighbors and peers helping peers to extend our work with someone living with diabetes from inside of the clinic to outside into their communities, which is where they spend most of their time.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And Joy, I know as a clinician, you are 100% on board with peer support and really view it as being a really critical component of diabetes management. But have you ever encountered any challenges in selling other clinicians on it? And how do you break through those barriers to really demonstrate the effectiveness and the purpose of peer support?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that, because I know how important it is, and I know how important it is to my patients and to their families as well, to have someone who really understands them, because I think they give me their trust, but it's only trust with a new person that you've just met only goes so far, right? And so I encourage my clinical peers and colleagues to ask a person if they would like to meet with someone. Are they someone who wants to meet in a group session? Would they like to meet maybe just a peer mentor? And then have them see the benefits of that. So sometimes it might just be me doing it for the first time. And then, there's nothing better than a patient coming in and saying, I went to this support group and I met this great peer support leader named Serena, and she was fabulous. And then, my clinicians come back and say, well, can we send this next person would be a really great candidate for that same program? Maybe it's something that we should be offering to everyone. And so I think just seeing it work and like repeating it over and over again, it then becomes just rote for the clinic to do that. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love the idea that there is this like word of mouth that happens also, is that patients see that it's effective, their clinicians see that it's effective, and it really kind of creates this circle of trust that makes it more effective, I think. So Serena, do you want to add anything about kind of how to build those trusting relationships in a peer support model, either with individuals and then with organizations and with communities as well?
Right. Well, with individuals, I've seen from personal experience, I forgot to add, I am also dealing with type 2 diabetes as well. So personal experiences really help to build trust, because then people say, oh, well, she may know exactly what I'm dealing with, and maybe I can, express more of what's going on in my life than I would express to someone who I know has not dealt with it. And, you don't know how I'm feeling, that kind of stuff. So individually, yes. With community partnerships, how Core Initiative has been able to do it. When I started Core Initiative, we started just doing community projects in the community, right? So we would go to different places and clean up the parks. I'd get a group of volunteers, which usually was my family, together, and we would, pick up the trash in the parks, or donate food at a fair, or every year we usually donate school supplies at one of the big community centers when they have a back to school giveaway. So we're already in the community doing stuff. And so when people see, oh, you also offer peer support for people with diabetes, then they're like, okay, well, maybe I can see what's going on, because they've helped me with an immediate need. So now I can dig deeper with them. I've seen them before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important. I think, you're emphasizing how you have these foundational relationships with other people and in the community. And that, I think, is one of the things that gives you so much credibility, right? And the ability to kind of, have that trust and those relationships. So, Serena, what advice do you have for someone who is thinking like, wow, this sounds really great. I would love it if my community had a peer support model. Like, I'm really excited about this. What can I do to get started?
Well, I would say discover what your why is, because if there's no passion behind it, most likely it's not going to be sustainable. And that's very important, because passion will drive everything, right? It'll push you to do things that you didn't even think was possible for you to do. Passion will help push you to where your destination is. So first, I would say figure out your why. And also, like I said earlier in the show, community and partnerships are important. So find those key community people or organizations, link up with them and see where you all have a common ground, so that you all can work together, because they may not provide the same thing that you provide, but you may provide something that they need, and they may provide something that you need. For example, Core Initiative does not have a building to host meetings. So what I did before the pandemic was I would go and set up meetings with the different organizations that had buildings and had classrooms. And they really were looking for people who would come and help their members out with diabetes. So I said, well, I can help out with diabetes if you can help me out with a classroom. So it's kind of a trade-off. You figure out what each other needs, and you come to a common ground, and there's poof, collaboration. So that's what I
Yeah,
would say.
just like magic, right? The collaboration happens.
Yeah.
Joy, do you have anything to add? If one of your patients came to you and was like, I'd love to start a peer support initiative, like how can I get started? What would you tell them?
Well, so one of the things that oftentimes you may not even know who a person is who wants to partake in peer support, right? So sometimes someone just kind of wants to stay on the background, and I'll let Serena talk about that. A person who might be a little bit shy to join peer support is very different from someone who wants to jump right in, right? But then you never know if I've had some patients who were very closed off. They didn't want to talk about their diabetes or their diabetes journey at all. Two of them are incredibly amazing peer supporters now. And this was just like a 1 year kind of transition. One of them, she just started building her own skills and realized that these were skills that she should teach other people. And oftentimes what I hear is, I wish someone had told me this. And that person is oftentimes the one that I'm like, maybe you should join a peer support and then consider being that peer supporter that you wished you had. And that's a powerful moment for someone, right? Because now they've realized that I've gained these skills. I can help someone else. And in doing so, I'm also helping myself.
Right. Exactly. I was going to say that is so true. That was me. With me dealing with diabetes myself, a lot of things I had to figure out on my own. And that's what really got me passionate about helping others, like with the education piece and peer support. So I just remember one day sitting with my mom for lunch, and I was just coming from the doctor's appointment. I was so frustrated. I was going off to myself. And my mom was like, okay, so what is the problem? And I'm like, man, all this stuff I didn't know, like, why is there anybody to tell me this stuff? And I was really frustrated because my son, I think, was like 3 or 4 months old, and my body was going through a lot of changes. And so I said, I wish something needs to be changed. I wish I could change it. And my mom was like, so why can't you do something about it? And I was like, light bulb, duh. Okay. So that's what got me on the track to learning what I needed to do and hooking up with Cities Changing Diabetes and just trying to learn as much as I can so that I can help others in my same situation.
That's such a powerful story, Serena, to hear that. Like, that kind of your mom was your original cheerleader and like almost like your original peer support that really kind of got you thinking like about what you needed and about like what everyone needs. And it's so unfortunate in a lot of ways that there's this really common experience when people are diagnosed with diabetes of feeling overwhelmed and of feeling out of control. And it's just so powerful that peer support can make such a difference for people and kind of feeling like, you can do this, right?
Right.
So I want to ask you about, we mentioned that some of the work that you've been doing has changed as a result of COVID. So could you talk a little bit about how that has changed the work that you're doing?
Yes. Okay. So before the pandemic, before everything started shutting down, we had 7 locations. We had Baker Ripley, we had Buckner International, that was with Star Hope. We also had the Dawn Center here in Houston, the Institute for Spirituality and Health, the Pinnacle Senior Center, and it was one more. It's hard for me to keep all those things in my head. There we go. The Gathering Place. It's a clubhouse branch off from the Manager Clinic. So it was a mental health facility, but it was an activity center for their patients to go to. So we were there as well. Before that, we had meetings. Everything was rolling. We had meetings all during the week, and then the pandemic hit. And I started getting phone calls from everybody. I'm sorry, Ms. Valentine, we're shutting down the center. We're shutting down indefinitely. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, what about my people? I get so close to my participants, so I call them my people. So I was just like, okay, I got to think of something really fast. So we started doing stuff on Zoom because I forgot to mention, we also have a Facebook group online for the Houston Diabetes Peer Support Program, which now we have 127 members. Yay. So on there, I would start just posting a lot of things about diabetes and things like that. And so I said, well, we need to have a virtual meeting, because I started having virtual meetings with everyone else dealing with my organization and things like that. So I said, well, it's time to have a virtual peer support meeting. And so when I did that, everybody just started showing up. Everybody's like, oh, this is so cool, Miss Serena, because I can be at home. I don't have to leave home. And so that started being the thing to do now. And Zoom has been very helpful. I did have to switch to Microsoft Teams because so many people were using Zoom and we were having problems. But Microsoft Teams has worked pretty good for us. So now we have meetings on Thursday mornings and Saturday evenings.
Yeah. And I think, Serena, that's really important because peer supporters seem to find a way to never leave someone hanging, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
the people become part of your family. Like you said, they become your people.
Yeah.
And that dedication allows, I think has allowed and been really integral, especially in emotional wellness for a lot of people who maybe can't get into their clinic settings as frequently right now.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, Serena, so you mentioned like you went from like seven in-person like on sites, and now you're doing more virtual meetings. So has that created more opportunities even for participants to connect with one another because there aren't those geographic barriers as well?
Right, exactly. And I've been able to do so much online. I don't know if I can say the pandemic's been a blessing or not, but I don't have to leave my house. It's so convenient, and I can talk to someone in another place. And so I think they're really enjoying that. Also, earlier, like Joy said, some people like group settings, some people like one-on-one. So I also find myself doing one-on-one consultations with people in addition to the group setting, because in the group setting, some people will not talk at all. I've seen it. And I'll just have to ask, hey, are you okay? Is everything going okay? Like, yeah, I'm just listening. And it's really that I really don't want to talk in front of everybody, but I have questions to ask. That's why I'm here. So I will usually connect with them later, and I've used social media to connect with them as well, just to check on them and see how they're doing. And normally by then everything just comes tumbling out because they have one-on-one. So there's the behavior aspect of it. Everyone's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's great that you found different ways to continue those connections and to meet those needs in a virtual environment through Zoom, through Teams, Facebook, using all the tools available to you. So I want to ask about something else, which is I think over the past several months we've seen an increased focus on health equity and racial equity, and curious about how that has changed your partnerships or how your work has evolved to meet those needs as well.
Yes, of course. As a result of, we know what's been going on with this, I would call it to a certain extent civil unrest, but because of that, a lot of people have been really concerned and really worried about the future of their kids, their grandkids, and things like that. And they're like, it's so, for some people it worries them to the point of being stressed out, not eating, not wanting to exercise, because some people really get down and depressed about the whole situation, which it can be. And it really is tasking on the mind when you don't feel safe where you are. So I've been hearing about that a lot in peer support, but we've been able to encourage each other to just, live their lives and teach your families about what you've gone through, what you're going through, and how to make it through these hard times, because they really are hard times, and it can stress anyone out. And we know for diabetes, stress is not a good thing. Even mental stress, your body registers it as stress, period. Your body doesn't know the difference. It's all stress. So we've been helping each other along through this difficult time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think what is striking to me is just how adaptable peer support is and how much it can really help strengthen you and help you weather any storm, right? I think it's really important to acknowledge the stress that people are living under and the way that that's directly impacted to how well they can manage their life and manage their diabetes and their health. And it sounds like, the peer support is just so uniquely equipped to just be there and catch people and meet people where they are and give them what they need.
Right, right, exactly. And I want to say I am not the author of peer support. I actually, when I went to the meeting where I saw Joy at, we talked about the framework that was developed for it. It was called Peers for Progress, and so they had there's a whole rubric about um, what peer support is to the participant and also for the peer supporter. So it does assist people in daily management. People have to wake up in the morning, they have to check their blood sugar. If you have to take insulin shots, you have to take your shots, you have to eat, take your other medications if you have them. And so that it becomes something that we can help each other learn how to do time management when it comes to daily management. Also, it's for social and emotional support. Some people come in with other problems that have nothing to do with diabetes, but it does affect your management when you're depressed or you're grieving from the loss of a loved one, or like during the pandemic, everybody's catching COVID-19. Am I going to catch it? Am I going to die if I catch it? All these things come up in peer support, and we're just here to encourage each other to do a whole lot better and not be stressed out. And it's ongoing support, and it's extended. This is the best part of peer support. You can come at any time. Some days I have 20 people in peer support. Some days I have none. For example, today I had one person come in today, and it's no pressure. If you don't come, fine. But me, I notice all of my people. If somebody doesn't show up for 2 or 3 peer supports, I'm messaging. I'm like, okay, where are you? Are you okay? Are things okay? What's going on? Let me know. So that this framework actually has helped me put together and coordinate the program as far as it's going. I would say we've been successful so far. The challenges just have been like, with some community partnerships, some partnerships, they're like, okay, you're just going to provide this service and we don't have to do anything. And sometimes that becomes a challenge because they're not advertising it to their members. And so the members don't know we're there. I've had that issue, but how we get through that, I just sit down and have a meeting with them and say, hey, I'm just calling to check in, or I'm coming to check in. And I just want to talk to you about some things that we need. Communication is very important. So it has been a ride for me, but it's been a very pleasant one. For sure. For sure.
Yeah, and I love this idea of peer support also as accountability as well, but like in a really positive way. Like, right, you're checking in on people and kind of checking in, seeing how they're doing, but doing it like non-judgmentally. I think everyone has had that experience where they've gone to a healthcare provider and kind of felt like they were being scolded or judged, or maybe didn't leave with the most positive feeling. And I feel like this is the opposite of that, in terms of, again, just recognizing what the needs are and being there for people and being supportive and really giving people the power to succeed.
Right, right. And you know what? The crazy thing about it is a lot of my people that come in, the participants, they look at me as the expert. And I'm like, I'm learning from y'all too, because it's some things I learned in peer support from the people who are there. And not just that, it makes me accountable. Like I say all the time, I can't tell you to have this kind of meal plan, to exercise, to make sure you check your blood sugar, make sure you take your medicine, but I'm not doing it. I can't tell you that and my health is failing. Then you won't believe me. You won't trust me anymore. You won't trust that what I'm telling you works. So it also helps out the peer supporter as well, because it makes you feel good. You feel good when you help people. So
yeah. So we're going to start to wrap up. And I know that we've had some resources flash up on the screen. So you highlighted Peers for Progress as a source for your framework. I think we showcased the Houston Peer Support Facebook group. Are there any other resources that you want to highlight for our viewers if they're interested in getting more information?
Yes, Core Initiative has a website. It is www peoplenomics.org, and it's peoplenomics on purpose. There's a reason for that, and you can see that on the website. There's a definition for that. Also, if you'd like to email me, it's coreinitiative@peoplenomics.org. If you have any questions about starting your own peer support network, or you just have questions about it, period, or you would even like to join, we'd love to have you. Just shoot me an email, and we'll get back with you as soon as possible.
Well, thank you, Serena. I love kind of the wisdom that you bring to all of our weekly broadcasts as a panelist, and this was just so great to be able to dive a little bit deeper into the work that you're doing in peer support. So, any final words of wisdom for our listeners and viewers?
I just it's so important to talk to someone. Don't be afraid to talk to someone about what's going on in your life, because you may think you're going through it alone, but you're not alone. There are so many other people dealing with diabetes, and it's hard. And even for me, yes, I've had it for a while, but it's still a struggle sometimes, and it's still challenging. So it's very important to find that person to talk to about what's going on in your life.
That's great. Yeah, Joy, any final words of wisdom from you tonight?
I think that if you are a clinician and you have had successes using and peer support, and you can find someone like Serena in your community. There are multiple peer support networks in different communities. We have been really, really lucky in that Serena has taken this role of peer support lead here for us volunteers at Cities Changing Diabetes here in Houston. But if there's a way that you as a clinician can partner with a peer support team, peer support groups, that you can then provide the information for your patients to, or your clients, please do so. They're there in the community, they're there to help, and patients learn a lot. People learn a lot from people who are just like them, and they want to meet others who are learning and growing in their lived experience with diabetes. And so I think that it's just a valuable extension from what we teach, the skills that we help to build in the clinic, to something that they can do at home in their communities all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you, Joy. Thank you, Serena. It's been a pleasure to hear more about the peer support initiatives today. That's it for our special edition of MyDiabetesHQ Live. And to our viewers, we hope that this conversation has inspired you to get out there, to communicate, to seek support for yourself or for a loved one dealing with diabetes, or be a source of support yourself for someone else. Continued gratitude to our friends and colleagues who took the time to share with us. And we hope you'll join us for our weekly broadcast. So every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, join us for the